way. We are back once again with the World GT Championship. Starting off the second half of the 13th season here on RaceSpotTV. It is Sebring for an endurance round of the championship here today. Paul Smith and Peter Mackay giving you all the action as always. And well, Peter, we've had that week's break. We've got an endurance race coming up at Sebring. A few of these drivers have been preparing themselves not just for this, but for the 12 hours on the weekend as well.
That they have, and they've had the real world Sebring 12 hour to get us some tips, and maybe some tips of not how to do it as well for those who have seen the race. But yeah, Sebring is one of the iconic endurance venues. That's exactly what we're going to see tonight here in the World GT Championship, and more than just a warm-up for this weekend's iRacing special event, a proper fight for the championship, especially right at the top.
Yeah, we'll touch on the championship in a moment, but we started all the way back in January at Watkins Glen before we headed to Interlagos and Red Bull Ring, Bathurst Zolder and then Motegi last time out. Then this week, as you can see, we are at Sebring for the start of the second half of the season. Monza is next week for two 40-minute feature races. Oschersleben gets its first outing in the championship for 3 sprint races in the start of April. Then Daytona, Manicourt and Hockenheim round out the championship schedule on the 1st of May. And speaking of the championship, well, it is Leandro Anderuti who is just leading that championship by 8 single points against Peter Davidson. He was a doctor in Doctor Who. Alexander Davidson for Pure Sims Esports, with Lucas Prada, is Pure Sims Esports teammate, a further 120 points behind. Then Aaron Vasquez from Altus Esports ahead of Ross McFarlane, Christoph Kourakis, Jack Sedgwick, Fabio Unvadrus, James Armstrong and Massimo Locatello rounding out the top 10. In Pro-Am, it is James Boemi who's been an absolute sensation so far in this championship for Altitude Esports. He's currently leading by 89 points ahead of Daniel Sedgley for Pure Platinum Racing Team. He's been just going about his business steady away. He's been there or thereabouts. Tom Brown has had some good rounds, and for the Brabham Esports Hissing Sid team, with Peter Harrod, the former Season 7 champion for Century Sim Racing, in 4th place. Ethan Critchley in 5th, ahead of Justin Clarson's Tim Perry, Richard Simner, Adam Watson and Mark Woodhouse rounds out the top 10. Then in AM, it is Andy Archer who currently leads at 1, and he's been dominant all the way through this season for his team. 194 points ahead of Adam Hedgecock, who's just 2 points ahead of Maciej Sakovic. Then it's Ben Gregory ahead of Sarah Raab, with Jack Osborne, Paddy Faulkner, Lars Van Rijn, Jeroen Kaiser and Sophia Ridpath rounding out the top 10 in the AM standings. The Teams Championship, well, it is being dominated by Pure Sims Esports at the moment. 362 points clear of German simracing.de by ACV. Brabham Esports are in 3rd place, close between those two, and then a little bit of a gap back to Altus Esports, with Brabham Esports Hissing Sid, Pure Sim SimLab, Altitude Esports White, German simracing.de and Beehive Racing. Then in the AM Teams Championship, the newly named Fat Atom Racing, I'm going to mess that up so much you will not believe it. They are currently leading that one by 53 points ahead of Platinum Racing Team. Altitude Esports Blue are in 3rd ahead of DCW Racing, with Team Mad, Penguin RC Simulation, then Century Sim Racing, Inex Racing, Boosted and 3M UK rounding out the top 10. So that is how things stand right now in the championship, and we've currently got the end of qualifying happening right now. The pros are out on track, and there's currently Ross McFarlane provisionally on pole position for the time being, ahead of Jack Sedgwick. James Boemi, though, the Pro-Am, is in 3rd place. So it's good to see the Pro-Ams up there, and Vasquez in 4th ahead of Christoph Kourakis. And Tom Brown, another Pro-Am, 6th place, although just as to say that, Alex Davidson and Aaron Vasquez get themselves up into 2nd place on the provisional grid. So times are still coming in thick and fast here today. The top AM driver out there on track in terms of qualifying is Jonathan Walker. Good to see Jonathan Walker up there in qualifying times with a 1:59.005, and he really got himself in a good spot there in 15th place, but right behind him in the standings is Jensen Adriansons in 16th place. So 2 AMs pretty far up the grid, and we've only got 3 drivers who haven't set a lap time: Josh Thompson, Hunter McDaniel and Maciej Sakovic. And Peter, it's great to see a mix of drivers between Pro-Am and AMs well into the top 20.
Well, it's fantastic to see, especially on a circuit that's as challenging as Sebring. It's really, really difficult for the drivers to get into a proper groove. I mean, what a performance from James Buemi in 6th, Tom Brown in 9th, and Ethan Critchley in 10th. Overall, that's remarkable with a nearly 50-car grid. Superb stuff. But Ross McFarlane back on top in the Pure Sims Ferrari.
Yeah, Pure Sims Esports, they're quite comfortable at the top of the Pro Teams Championship, but right now it's just Ross McFarlane who's lonely at the front there. Of course, remember that there was an iRacing season build, so the quarterly update that happens on iRacing, so any changes to balance of performance could see things really mixed up out there. And one car that we cannot forget and ignore in this race is Leandro Andaruti, championship leader coming into this round, in that Porsche, just in the background of shot there.
He has been a revelation this season, one of very few drivers to opt for the Porsche 911 GT3R, and he's really made it work with a fantastic endurance race win earlier on in the season, and he'll be wanting to carry that form on today here at Sebring as well. And of course, one of the very few privateers in the field as well, but he is up there for that championship fight right now, is Andaruti.
Certainly is. In fact, there he goes across the line now to finish his lap times, and does improve up into 2nd place. So just 3 100ths of a second separating Ross McFarlane and Andaruti. There's Cedric just finishing his lap time, and he's within 1/10 of your pole sitter. So it's really close times out there here at the end of qualifying. Last of the drivers have come across the line, so in just over a minute time or so we'll be able to give you your starting grid. But we are driving into the evening here, Peter. What sort of challenges will these drivers have, especially going into Sunset Bend?
Well, I think one thing that's to their advantage is the cooling of track temperature. As the track temperature goes down, the tyres really come into their own. It's at 26 degrees Celsius at the moment, which is very favourable, but it's going to cool off another bit there as well. And here at Sebring, it's very hard on tyres because it's a very low amount of grip on the very changeable surface. But the way that the corners is, it's a constant right-left all the time, so it is hard on tyres as well. So the drivers will be very happy to see that track temperature come down. However, as you mentioned, when the sun goes down, that's where track knowledge and that muscle memory comes in very, very important. So those who have done their practice are going to have an advantage for sure.
Oh, they certainly are, and I mean, definitely this is going to be a tremendous test for some of those drivers out there, and surviving the early stages. You know, it's not the widest of tracks in places, especially through that first sector, through that opening section through towards Big Bend and the hairpin. So yeah, definitely going to be a test of those drivers. But with that, we'll be able to give you your starting grid here on RaceSpotTV, and it is going to be the Pure Sims Esports driver of Ross McFarlane, who's on pole position here today, and alongside him is one of your championship contenders, Leandro Andaruti, on second place. Front row of the grid for those two. Jack Cedric and Alan Vasquez on row number 2, with Alex Davidson and your top Pro-Am qualifier, James Buemi, just 0.4 of a second off of pole position for the Altitude Esports driver. Row number 4 for Christoph Krekes with Fabio Umdradrus alongside him. Tom Brown is another one of those Pro-Ams in the top 10 for the Brabham Esports Hissing Sid team. Alongside him is third place in the Pro Championship, Lucas Prada. Ethan Critchley and then Axel Sliepovic in 12th place, row number 6. Row 7 for Massimo Locatello and James Armstrong with Justin Clarsons, and your top AM driver. Pole position in AM for Jonathan Walker for the 3M UK team. One row back from him though is another AM here. Jensen Adriansons for Indy Autosport, alongside him is Ben Palmer. Daniel Handover and Jack Osborne share row number 10 with Andy Archer, Adam Watson, Daniel Sedgley and Tim Perry down to row number 12. Daniel Nolt is on row 13, alongside him is the ever-improving Sarah Raab. Jordan Johnson, new to the series last time out, alongside him is Sophia Ridpath, with Pete Harrod down in 29th, he won't be happy with that, and Chris Gooch rounding out row number 15. 16th row of the grid for Ben Gregory and Brian Holmes. New to the championship is Brian in that Orion Motorsport car. Philip Koenig and Jacody Crosgrove round out the next row of the grid with Edward Knight and Richard Simner. Adam Hedgecock and Lee Berridge share the next row of the grid. Row 20 is an all-team mad affair with Mark Woodhouse and Jeroen Kaiser. Marvin Lesmallman, he'll be disappointed with that, qualifying down in 41st with Paul Crawford alongside him. Dwyer Adriansons and Paddy Faulkner on the next row of the grid with Cesar Rizzo and Brian Sohan. Then it's Lars Van Rijn, and then those that did not set a lap time. Josh Thompson is one of those, and the other two is Hunter McDaniel and Magic Sakovic. That rounds out your 50-car grid as they all pull away now on their pacing lap, and this is a real benefit for them around this track, Peter. They get a full pace lap to just get themselves prepared for the start of the race.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, getting a full run around the circuit to generate some tyre temperature and some tyre pressure as well. Although it is technically against the rules, you will see drivers just accelerating lightly, braking lightly just whenever they get the opportunity to do that. As you can see, they're all trying to manage it as best they can. But yes, it is an opportunity to build up some tyre temperature and pressure. Better than when we get, for example, say at Bathurst, where you've only got a couple of hundred metres before it's go, go, go. So yeah, it is definitely welcomed by the drivers for sure.
Now, one thing that was changed for this round is the fuel limit for these cars. I did see that in the announcements that were made. So the fuel will be reduced to 70% for the endurance races from 75%. So that's a slight change that these drivers are going to have to get used to. It means that they're not going to quite get to 45 minutes of driving. It's more going to be sort of that 35 to 40 minute mark now, Peter. How's that going to affect the strategy play here?
Well, I think that might actually make it easier, because in the past you had to take one kind of big stop and one much shorter stop. So it might actually balance that out. We'll see. Well, one thing is for sure, here in the World GT Championship, the endurance races are often the most exciting from a real kind of deep thinking point of view, because the drivers always have surprises for us in terms of the strategy that they play, and the amount of times where we've seen a driver just come from nowhere and win one of these races purely with that strategy play as well. So I'm excited to see how the drivers handle that. You can be sure that they know exactly what they're going to be doing.
One driver who will not be taking the start is Josh Thompson. It's a shame, really, because he's always entertaining when he comes through the field like that from the back of the grid. But yeah, he is going to be a non-starter here. So 49 cars will take the start as the drivers go down the Ullman Straight into Sunset Bend. It's a corner with 1,000 different lines, and you're going to be seeing overtakes being made into this corner. It is a favourite for those drivers out there. But we're getting ourselves set for the start of this motor race. Pleasure to have you all along here on RaceSpotTV for round number 7 of the World GT Championship, season number 13. The pace car pulls into driver's right, and we go green flag racing at Sebring. Down towards turn number 1 they go. They fan out 4, almost 5 wide in towards turn number 1, but it's Ross McFarlane, your pole position sitter, who gets a good start. Through turn 1 they go. Got to be careful through the next bit. We've got a spinner midway through the pack. Everybody seems to be staying clear. It might have been Sarah Raab, I think it was. She's dropping down the order on our timing screen. So drama on the exit of turn number 1. We've got more drama in the mid-pack. Oh, that's one of the Fat Adam cars going off there. Jack Osborne's dropping down the order. So too is Locatello and Clarson's as well. We'll keep green flag racing for the time being as they head towards the hairpin. Another pinch point around this track. Already a bit of a gap forming partway through the field as they're heading through towards the second half of the lap. It's a big old lap here, Peter, but already a few casualties out there.
Yeah, 1 or 2, it's to be expected, but at the front, 3 Ferraris lead the way. We haven't said that for a long time here in the World GT Championship, but it's defending champion Ross McFarlane who leads from his teammate Alex Davidson, who put in a huge move up the inside. Very brave move on the opening lap on Jack Sedgwick and got that second position. Tell you whose start hasn't gone so good for is Leandro Andretti in the Porsche, starting from the front row. He's now back in 5th, so it didn't really go his way. However, we've seen Andretti do this in the past in endurance races, almost be stealthy in that black Porsche in the leading groups, keeps in the leading group, but really minimises his fuel use and gains the time back in the pit stops.
We've had other drama out there as well. Adam Hedgecock looks to be at a standstill. In fact, he might have actually been having a little bit of an internet problem looking at my timing screen. There were a couple others involved in an incident. Pete Harrod has dropped down the order, so too has Ben Palmer in this one as well. So there's been some big drama out there on the opening lap, but we stay green flag racing as we go across the line again down towards turn number 1. This is the race for 13th. Adam Watson, who got a bit excitable, I think it's fair to say. He is trying to get a good result here. But Ethan Critchley in that Fat Atom Racing, that's going to take a bit of getting used to saying after saying Century Sim Racing for so long. They go through, and yes, that's going to be up to 13th place for Critchley. But a little bit of a gap already. Johnny Walker, worth mentioning, he's had a lightning start, up 4 places to 12th place here, Peter.
Yeah, great start from the driver of the 3M UK Ferrari, Johnny Walker, car number 88. And yeah, superb for the AM driver. Jensen Adrianson is the next in that class in 15th. On our RaceSpotTV timing tower, you'll see green numbers, that's the pros, orange for Pro-Am, and blue is for AM as well. Split based on their, mainly on their I rating, but also results as well. And they can be adjusted at certain points of the season, but so heading to the half point of the season, we've got tight battles in each of those classes.
We certainly do. Here's what happened to that Sarah Raab on the exit of turn 1. We just caught the end of that there. Here we go. That's a better look. So, just drifted into the side of one of those BMWs, and around she goes. There's what happened to the hissing Sid car, number 19, and he went around. So drama further back. And then that's what happened, and that was the 11 of Locatello getting into the side of Jack Osborne. It was who he made contact with, so a bit of drama further down. Leader, Ross McFarlane, is almost a second clear of Jack Sedgwick, who's actually made a move past Alex Davidson. So up to second place for Jack. There you see him in the Inex car. And Ross McFarlane, though, he's one that's a canny with the strategy, isn't he, Peter? He's always thinking outside the box, and we're not used to seeing him right at the front in these endurance races this season.
No, we aren't, but I think definitely, as you see Aaron Vazquez make the move there into 3rd position, and yeah, Aaron Vazquez made that move at the perfect time to mention it, because really those Altus Audis have been that they were the stars of the shows through rounds 4, 5 and 6, but that iRacing balance of performance adjustment that we'll have seen in the last week or so, appears to be just giving the Ferraris a little bit of a leg up as well. They're looking very strong across the classes. So right on sim with Aaron Vazquez, and yeah, right behind him is Alex Davison in the Pure Sims Ferrari, trying to make a move back again, but not quite. But a lot of the time you'll see the drivers just sussing one another out in this first stint. And Ross McFarlane, he'll always be cognizant of his tyre usage as well. That's one thing where he's always been an absolute master over a stint.
Well, this is a look back at lap 1. Just getting caught. Very little that you can do, though, when you're on the outside and cars are having to avoid another one having a spin. So that was a little bit further down in your order. And Jack Sedgwick is into the pit road. He must have a penalty of some sort.
Or he's left the qualifying fuel in.
Or, you stole the words from my mouth there,
Sorry.
Peter. Right, well, that's completely unexpected from Jack. And yeah, he's gone onto his pit stall, so... Well, after what was looking like a really promising start for Jack, he's having to take a very early pit stop, and he won't make it to the end of this race with just one more pit stop, will he? He's going to have to do a splash and dash for a third pit stop in this race.
Yep, and even on the old limit of 75%, he would have had to as well. So that's a real miscue there from Jack Sedgwick, and big contact there from one of the Porsches into the back of the Century Sim Racing Audi.
That's Pete Harrod.
Fat Atom.
No, that's Pete Harrod in the Century Sim Racing car. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So got hit by the 666 of
Les Moman,
yes, who's made a switch from the Audi to the Porsche, and he just got straight into the back of Harrod. If you watch carefully, oh no, this is another car off the road. That's Mark Woodhouse in the.
No, it's Kaiser. You can tell by the mint green wheels.
One form here, aren't I?
It's the mint green wheels that give it away for your own Kaiser. As another one of your BMW, and cars are just scattering like skittles. There as cars just coming onto the track again. But Vazquez now is in second place, but is now 1.6 seconds behind Ross McFarlane. McFarlane, he'll want to manage that lead at the front, but at the same point, he also does not want to get pushing his tyres too hard and making his life a bit worse. And definitely wants to get a good result here today, because his championship defence, it's not been the best opening half to a season for Ross, has it, Peter? It's certainly not been ideal for him.
No, it hasn't. No, a little bit behind on what we would expect as Mark Woodhouse, also with blue wheels, I might add. I think that's where I think I was.
No, they're
long
blue.
Distance, long shot. Yes, you're right. No, actually, yes, yeah. I thought that excuse would have flown, but obviously not. Yes, Mark Woodhouse, he's definitely not had the season he would have liked either. So fierce here in the World GT Championship with around 50 cars at every race. It's if you don't have a good day, it really hurts. You are far down the order. James Buemi, he's backed up that qualifying pace. He's still in 6th position and in touch with the leading group. So a superb start for James Buemi. Car number 128, Altitude A Sports, putting in a huge amount of work, ready for this weekend's iRacing 12 Hours of Sebring.
And that's been a real benefit for some of the drivers in this round of the championship, hasn't it? With the organisers deliberately putting this round before the Sebring 12 Hours, it gives people that opportunity if they are going to be competing, and not all these drivers will compete in the Sebring 12. It gives them the opportunity, those that maybe would be sort of in the teens down to 20th place, if they've been putting that time in, I mean, Buemi, to be fair to him, he's been a bit of an oddity, and he's been sort of in the top 10 anyway as a Pro-Am. It gives those drivers an opportunity, doesn't it, Peter, to try and take that practice into a race like this.
Yeah, and this is a perfect opportunity to get some real important match fitness in there too for what is one of the most fearsome enduro races you'll get. And it's so difficult, so easy to make a mistake as Daniel Sedgley slips up the inside of Adam Watson in the Audi, Sedgley in the BMW, but Watson, we know he always likes to fight back, and he's going to try it here into Christensen corner, but no such luck. And Sedgley gets by. In fact, Watson's under pressure now from Jensen Adriansson's in the AM class.
And again, yeah, an AM driver who Adriansson's and Walker both started just one place between them in qualifying. But that's going to be a late move down the inside. That's Critchley that we're on board with, I think. No, it wasn't. It was Daniel Handover. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong part of the timing screen there. Yeah, it was Handover that we were on board with then. And that just allows Watson a little bit of breathing space in that little tussle, that little fight going on, as there goes your 34 of Philip Koenig, moving up a place to 17th ahead of Tim Perry. It's these early stages in these races when you've still got cars grouped together where you've really got to take advantage of any overtakes and take advantage of those opportunities that come to you, because the longer into the race you go, the more spread out the field, the harder it becomes to overtake people.
It does, yes, indeed. The standard at the top is just so sharp. Interestingly, Vazquez has moved his way forward into second position and was with just hovering around a second to Ross McFarlane, so just picking up little slithers of slipstream as you come down the back straight here on the Almond straight, a little bit on the front straight as well, which always helps. That any little bit of slipstream you can get is great. Jonathan Walker continues to forge forward in the 3M Ferrari, car number 88, and leading the AM class, and we haven't seen this from Johnny for quite some time. It's great to see.
Yeah, he's been, I think he'll admit this himself, he's been off pace this season so far, hasn't he? But the Ferrari seems to have really come alive around here tonight. Maybe it's due to a little bit of the balance performance changes, or maybe it's that he's been putting in time to practice for the 12 hours and it's paying off. Who knew that putting practice in actually makes you better at something that you're trying to do?
That's what they say. What does it say? It takes 10,000 hours to be world class at something. 10,000 hours of practice to be world class. I don't think I'm world class at anything, Paul.
Paddy Faulkner getting a lovely view of his team jersey. Of course, the DCW Racing team getting themselves some team wear, and good to see them making use of that. As they go out of the hairpin, you are watching the World GT Championship here on RaceSpotTV. Paul Smith and Peter Mackay in the commentary box. As there goes Paddy through the right-hander at Cunningham. One of those tricky corners is Cunningham into Collier, and then through this right here, you're then onto the brakes coming into Tower. It's a real challenging section of the track as Lucas Prada and Fabio Unverdrus are duking it out there.
They are indeed, yeah. Lucas in one of the few Mercedes AMGs in the field, the big thumping V8 from Alfterbach, with the Raging Bull from Bologna, a Lamborghini right behind in there. Right behind Lucas Prada's Fabio Unverdrus. Meanwhile, we've got two Ingolstadt Audis battling here. The Brabham Audi of James Armstrong tussling away.
It's Krekus, isn't it?
Yes,
in fifth
it is,
place.
yeah. Krekus, excuse me, Craig Krekus and
yeah.
And
it is a Brabham eSports car, you're absolutely right.
I got half right.
James Buemi there that were got on board shot there, and I've always found it interesting since they've added the windscreen wiper to these GT3 cars, just how much these drivers end up using the windscreen wiper. Around this track, you do pick up a lot of dirt, don't you, coming onto the track? It is a proper old-school circuit, is this?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, an old former World War II airfield, Hendricks Field. It was actually a World War II B-17 bomber training base where they kept that. They kept Flying Fortress aircraft, and this is the Flying Fortress straight that we're going through right now, up towards Jean de Bienne Bend. Olivier Jean de Bienne, he was a master around this circuit in the late 50s and early 60s. And it's a circuit that is just absolutely dripping in history. It really did bring endurance sports car racing from Europe to America, and that has brought a massive accident to Hendricks Field. Goodness me.
That's Cody Crosgrove involved in that one. So too is the 58 of Brian Holmes. Incident happening out there on the exit of Tower. They do get back up and running. And I want to touch on the history as well, because there is actually a link between this track and one of the teams out here, because of course Sir Jack Brabham won his first Formula 1 World Championship right here at Sebring.
That's right, yeah, and it was the first ever USA F1 race, and oh, it's such a shame there. Just a very honest mistake there, car number 12 having a spin, Jordan Johnson, and that just, there was nowhere for the following cars to go. Nobody's fault really, but 3 cars ending up with heavy damage.
Yeah, Brian Holmes was the one who ended up head-on facing a car in front. Richard Simner has taken a trip to pit road, so it's Jordan Johnson, who I think the Pure SimLab car involved there. But yeah, this place just oozes history. Absolutely wonderful, and you think that it's a place like this where you had them as a training facility for World War II bombers with Flying Fortresses. You think Silverstone, that was a training RAF base for the Wellington bombers. So it's really good to see how these old World War II airfields ended up becoming racetracks. Unfortunately, not all the racetracks that were made from those airfields ended up still being used to this day. But you can see how that links all together across the world of motorsport. Meanwhile, Ross McFarlane at the front of the field has been caught by Aaron Vasquez, and I think now I'm not going to do a Peter Mackay with Adam Watson at Zolder and say that Vasquez is going to go. I think Vasquez is just going to sit there now behind Ross. I think he'll play that long game and get himself some fuel saving as James Buemi makes it ahead of Christoph Krekas.
Well, we did have slow down penalty there for a car actually letting cars going through. I think that's
Van Rijn.
Yeah, Lars Van Rijn, who's letting everyone through there. He's running a little bit further down the order, but we saw that Adam Watson came in after that race and said, "Oh, I'm a new driver. I'm this season I'm going in with a different approach, and I'm going to be really clean and tidy." And the next race, he hit everything, including the pace car. And
he bounced it off of everything.
The medical car, he bounced off everything through the car park, back through the spectator area. It was just carnage. So the real Adam Watson still lingers underneath the surface.
But thinking of the strategy now, if I'm Vasquez behind the wheel of the car, I'm thinking, what am I doing being so quick? But also I'm thinking, right, I've got to save myself a bit of fuel here. If I could save myself a lap at minimum, that's going to then count towards me towards the end of the race. He has pushed on a little bit for a little while. His average lap times have been about 0.2 of a second faster on a 5-lap average. So he is quicker than Ross, but is that because Ross is pacing himself to hit a fuel number?
I think for sure Ross McFarlane won't just tear away with no game plan in mind. He will know exactly what the fuel number he needs to hit is, and if he's not hitting it, he will not go beyond that. He knows how important hitting that strategical marker is. So this is a real battle of wits here. Vasquez has done a superb job to close in that gap. They're still running a very hot pace. The best lap of the race for Ross McFarlane, a 158.8. That's only a second off his pole time. 158.9 for Vasquez and 158.8 for Davidson in third. Don't forget him as well. So they're still running a pretty good pace. But Vasquez, he's in exactly where he needs to be now, in the leading group with the pole sitter Ross McFarlane in his view. But in that slipstream, he can be a lot more fuel efficient. And actually, I think, Paul, because of the work he had to do to get up towards McFarlane, he's kind of got to catch up a bit now, because he's bound to have burned a good bit of fuel doing that.
Can I just say, by the way, thank you very much to Arjuna Kankapati, our producer here today. That's the first time I've seen that graphic actually used in the lap time. So that lap time comparison. So thank you very much. It really gives us a good bit of extra insight into the drivers and into the teams out there. So giving you extra information, and don't forget as well, if you are watching here and you're on your laptop or PC, there is a link in the chat to live timing, as there is Adam Watson getting nerfed. Who was that nerfed him there? Is that the India Sport car of Jensen Adrianson's? I think it is.
Yes. Oh, dumped out there. So that's I can't think he'll be very pleased about that one. But back at the front, Vasquez is getting closer and closer all the time, so they're trying to keep the pressure on McFarlane. One thing it is a bit of an unknown for us here is how will the fuel work out after the balance of performance adjustment, because some cars can be just a shade more economical than others. We saw that with the Porsche in the last iRacing season, which just finished. What will be the case this year? I mean, Leandro Andaruti in our sole Porsche, he's kind of running in a lonely fourth at the moment. Hasn't been able to hold on to that lead group, Paul. So we'll see what does he have up his sleeve. He has done this before.
Yeah, he certainly has. As we're carrying on here, and we've got a car going slow there. That's Lee Berridge in that boosted car. Still with the Virage partnership there, and he has had an issue, and that's just dropped him down the order. And so he's gone down to 33rd behind Edward Knight from Ignium. Here we go, here's a look at that. So Barry, he's losing it onto corner entry into Le Mans, and very, very close to that DCW racing car.
Very close, tight indeed. Yeah, it just carries a bit too much speed into Le Mans curve, and great avoidance from the DCW car indeed, Paul. And that did well actually for that not to be a complete loop. But we saw there just coming into Christensen corner, Aaron Vasquez in the Altus Audi really having a big old lift and coast, and you saw what appeared to Ross McFarlane to outbrake him massively. But actually, no, that was Vasquez fuel saving, as that's a big move up the inside there as well. Was that Watson going up the inside? Looked a bit heavy-handed.
Vault behind. Yeah, it was Watson on Chris Gooch. Yeah, you're absolutely right there, Peter. I'm just having a look through as Andy Archer, Centrisim Esports. What's happened to him? Because his car looks distinctly second-hand there. Oh, they're saying that it's a Fat Atom. You see, I'm going to have to get used to this Fat Atom racing. And that was just bang into the wall. That
was really unlucky. So the Ferrari there, just the Orion car 47, Cesare Rizzo, just lights up on the grass. That looked bad from that camera angle, but he touched a wheel onto the grass, accelerated, and that basically shot the car right. And boosted Virage Lamborghini. Oh my goodness me! Just hit the brake. Don't move! Don't move! Just stop!
It's Big Gregory. Oh my goodness! Car's bearing down on him.
Stop in that situation. Don't reverse.
Yes, you're just asking for an accident, aren't you? If you carry on going down the track like that. So I was just going to touch on, because I actually brought up the notes from the iRacing staff about the update, and this is what happened to Gregory. Oh, onto the grass. Hold your brakes. Just hold them. No, just hold them.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Because that could have been a bigger accident, or that one there, by trying to reverse. Just hold your brakes. Wait until there is space. I know it feels counterintuitive, doesn't it, Pete? Because you do want to get out of the way of people as a driver, but it's easier for others to avoid you than you trying to avoid moving vehicles.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. It's a bit like, you know, if you're at a clay shooting range and there's a target sitting perfect, it's the opposite of that. If you've got a target that's sitting perfectly still, it's a lot easier to hit it and a lot easier to predict. It's the whole point about it being predicting, whereas if the target is moving, it's much more difficult to predict and you have to anticipate, and often you don't. So, yeah, that's just stupidity. We've seen that twice now in this championship, one from another driver thinking it's a good idea to reverse. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's really, really stupid to reverse in the direction of travel. And if it was in and this comes to the point, if that was in an outdoor race, you'd have your license taken off you. You just wouldn't fly. So why should you in the virtual sphere? This is motorsport, just the same. It's just in a different sphere. The competition's the same. The commitment's the same.
Oh no! That's straight out of pits. Yeah, cold tyres, and that's Andy Archer. That is your AM Championship leader. He's taking a tour back to the pit lane. This could be a big day in terms of the AM Championship.
Yeah, that is a change. It doesn't. I tell you what, don't things change after a half-term break, Paul?
Yeah.
The narrative is really changing. Look at Buemi as well in fifth overall, and in Pro-Am, he's just proving remarkable in this race. But yeah, I mean, we've seen McFarlane. I mean, McFarlane in P1 is not something we should really be surprised about, but in the context of this season, it's definitely a bit of a change of the guard.
It certainly is. I had a quick message from Matt Fletcher, the team boss at Altitude Esports, who I know is watching this. I hope you're enjoying seeing your driver up there battling away in the top 5. He did let us into a little bit of a secret of those drivers at Altitude Esports. They have been putting in the hours, they have been putting in the practice, and it's paying off here today, this week. I'll get back to my point about the GT3 cars, because I brought up the patch notes for the most recent iRacing build. And, I mean, first of all, there was the improved ABS system, is one thing that the drivers have had to get used to with these cars. But also, here's an interesting one that's effective for this race. The engine will no longer be able to be disengaged by the clutch when the car is at racing speeds as a fuel-saving method. Oh! Oh no! Oh! That's Philip Koenig. And what do we say about holding the brakes?
Yeah, and waiting for a gap to rejoin as well. I mean, coming out of Sunset Bend there, you're in third, fourth gear and committed. So if you come round there and there's a car driving across the circuit, that makes it very, very difficult. So again, don't do that.
Yeah.
not what to do. And that's more good fortune than anything that those cars get by. Well, Sebring is biting. We know it's a difficult circuit. But yeah, I think that's a great move from iRacing, Paul, because you wouldn't do that in a real world GT3 car, dip the clutch to save fuel. You would lift off and just coast. Lift and coast is the most effective way to save fuel, so I think that just brings us one step closer to the kind of realism factor. So yeah, top marks to the iRacing software developers.
Yeah, because you can't do that in the real world.
No.
Of just dipping the clutch down. So yeah, you lift off the throttle early, going into a braking zone, brake that little bit later, you save fuel that way. Also saving fuel is sitting behind your competitor. Vasquez, I have noticed, has just been dipping a tyre into the grass coming down the Ullman Straight. That front left. Now, I tell you what, he's got to be careful with that because he might get caught out by it all. I do see, by the way, comments in the YouTube chat asking for a penalty. In this series, there's no live stewarding. All penalties are applied post-race and post-event. So you won't be seeing any in-race penalties unless, of course, the drivers breach the instant limit for this race, which is 24, and then they get a drive-through penalty.
I wonder if we might see some drivers hit that limit, because there are parts of the circuit here at Sebring where you can dip a wheel off, and you can find yourself giving away incident points. But it's more the contact. It's the 4 incident points you get for contact. There has been quite a bit of contact, must say, in the midfield, quite a bit. So let's see if anyone gets caught out with that. Ross McFarlane continues to lead, as he has done since the green flag. 30 minutes in, we expect about a 40-minute stint, maybe just over, maybe one more lap over 40 minutes. We had about 45-minute stints on the old fuel limit. It's been reduced slightly, so that's how we should see it go. And Vázquez is doing a very clever game here as well, because listening to his throttle input, he is definitely saving fuel where he can. However, he's doing it whilst keeping Ross McFarlane really under, could we say, Paul, quite an uncomfortable amount of pressure. Like for McFarlane, he's got his mirrors full of Altus Audi.
The thing that's going against Vázquez is that he hasn't got any of his teammates to keep him company this race. Compare that to Ross and Alex Davidson, who are first and third place, both Pure Sims Esports drivers. Ross McFarlane would love to win this race. Alex Davidson, I think, in terms of his championship, just needs to finish ahead of Anderuti, which is where they are right now. But we know how frugal that Porsche is, and we know how frugal Anderuti is with his right foot. As we've got a DCW racing car off track. That's Paul Crawford deciding that Sebring International Raceway is now a rallycross track.
Yes, unfortunately that's definitely not the fastest way around, but the drivers at the front really starting to hotten up the pace. Ross McFarlane, his best lap of the race last time by 1:58.655. Aaron Vázquez 1:58.640, his fastest also. Davidson a 1:58.8, so he dropped a couple of tenths to the leading pair there. Anderuti a 1:58.6, and get this, Pro-Am driver, 5th overall, James Buemi, 1:48.4. So your Pro-Am driver, not only running in the top 5, is the fastest car on track by a pretty decent margin.
And that'll be the fastest lap of the race as well, won't it? That last lap.
Yes.
So there you go. And the thing is, the series generally look at the rankings if you're a Pro-Am or an Am after about the first quarter of the season, don't they? They like to get that done after 3 rounds of the championship so that they can then just let people fight for their championship for the rest of the season. So James Buemi, who, let's not forget, is leading Pro-Am championship, is in a very, very good position right now.
Unbelievably good position, that's for sure. Going very well so far here as the darkness starting to come down here at Sebring. You can see the headlights just tracking around on the surface and the trackside walls. So the sun coming down quite quickly, and that will just, the track conditions will just be perfect right now. No wonder we're seeing such quick lap times. Now car 32 here, BMW. Did appear to be going a little bit
slow,
not at full speed. Yeah, not through lack of ability, through maybe some sort of technical
got
issue.
It wide. Got it wide on corner entry. And yeah, that
Critchley
suboptimal.
Taking quite a bit of damage repair there, so used up his fast repair, his Ethan Critchley. Slightly different sim setup, or certainly different camera position. The Century Sim Racing team toilet paper isn't in view there. Well, maybe he's run out.
Maybe that's why why he's got the new team that he's representing, Fat Atom Racing? Maybe he's used up all of the branded toilet roll and has decided to switch
more
teams.
Printed.
Yeah.
Yes. They'll need to get onto that.
As we carry on, Locatello's stopped out on track, I can tell you. I've got a yellow flag has flashed up on my screen, but he's got back up and running, so he's down the order though. As Locatello lost 12 places in this race so far, and down to that's down to 25th at the moment. As we've got two more cars off track. That's Lee Berridge and car 33, which is. I can't see on my timing screen. You know when you're blind to a number. Sophia Ridpath. 54 is Lee Berridge and Sophia Ridpath.
Yes.
Was the other car there.
Yes. That's a pity. Oh, it's Lee Berridge. Just a little bit of a late dive there, and that was a bit sloppy from Lee.
Flashing your headlights and then coming from that far back is just... I'm sorry,
sloppy.
that is sloppy.
Yeah, and that gap is always going to shut there as well at turn 5. So yeah, there's been a few of those tonight, and that's why I make the point. I think it has been a pretty chaotic race in the midfield, so the amount of contact definitely plays a factor in using up those incident points. I mean, Anderuti's quick lap a couple of laps ago did involve an off track because it didn't count as his best lap of the race. That's how we know. We're not far away from pit stops now. I'd suspect in the next 3 laps we should see the cars in. Many are already coming in. Adam Watson, Tom Brown, Daniel Nolte, Chris Gooch and Jensen Adrianson are in, and Ethan Critchley has already been in, as we saw.
You see how close Vasquez got there to the back of Ross McFarlane's car. You made the point a couple of rounds ago with the pros compared to the Pro-Ams and Ams, just how close they can get to each other out there, Peter. You pointed it out last time out at Motegi, and we're seeing that example again here with Aaron. He's doing a fantastic job of just hounding Ross McFarlane.
Your Spanish is getting better, Paul.
I did German at school, so I don't know me Spanish.
Yeah, well, Ross McFarlane, he's on the headlight flashers there because he's got Aaron Vasquez right on top of him. And, now Vasquez going to make a move. And, I don't see Ross fighting this too hard. No, he's thinking, I've done quite enough of being the diesel locomotive out the front. You're starting to do some fuel safe, and now he's come. That was almost as pure as the Adam Watson one there, but both Pure Sims cars in together, and this plays to your point, Paul, of how they can work together all race long.
James Blamey onto pit road as well, so we are seeing leaders heading on towards pit lane, and we're getting a bit of a pit party. Korekas, Prada, Undradros, Armstrong, Sliepovic. See, I got it wrong.
You got it. You had it.
I've been practicing. It's Sleptrovic onto pit road, as well as Johnny Walker and Daniel Sedgley as well. So Anderuti and Vasquez up at the front have not pitted. Others still coming down at the pit road. Tim Perry now as well. I would expect Hunter McDaniel, Clarsons, Raab and Rizzo all to come onto pit road. Ross McFarlane's leaving pit road along with Alex Davidson, and they are going to be neck and neck, quite literally neck and neck, and it's going to be McFarlane who comes out ahead of his teammate.
Perfect execution from Pure Sims there to get those, but Aaron Vasquez, he has had a horrendous lap since both of those Pure Sims Ferraris went in. He hit huge amounts of traffic, so whoever's on the Pure Sims pit wall, they have done a mega job by pulling them in before hitting that big batch of traffic. And Vasquez, well, again, all on his own, he's definitely lost at least a second in that traffic. So bad was the traffic, so this could play right into the hands of these Pure Sims Ferraris.
And that's it. You've got to look up, haven't you? You've got to be heads up driving and see what's ahead, because others had pitted earlier by a lap or two, and you're going to end up tripping over them in traffic. Whereas those Pure Sims cars, they saw, right, get in now, get that pit stop done, and get ourselves a bit of clean air here as the leaders come around the final corner. Vasquez does come onto pit road. Leandro Anderuti in that frugal Porsche stays out yet another lap, but as you mentioned, Peter, he's right in the thick of lap traffic as Anderuti. He could be slowing himself down here.
Could be, yeah, could be. We don't know what Anderuti's up to. Occasionally we can see him go 2 laps longer than everybody else, so or even 3. So let's see. Anderuti, he's one you cannot write off. He's kept in touch with that leading group. He's sort of hovered around 3 seconds behind them the whole way, but has been able to do that with less fuel usage. How much will that bring him back into play? We'll see. But right now, Pearson's are in a really good spot because they can work together. They can play the fuel strategy game, and they can run McFarlane at the front for half a stint and then put Davidson at the front for half a stint. They're so equal on pace, it doesn't really matter who's at the front, but they can even out that fuel usage and help each other. This is dreamland for Pearson's right now.
Oh, but Vasquez comes out in the lead right now. He's got about, well, we just let the timing settle because he is fresh out the pit lane. So about 2.8 seconds, 2.9 seconds between Vasquez and McFarlane. So Aaron has done a fantastic job there, and we're thinking that the Ferraris didn't take any tyres and Aaron took 2.
Well, and Aaron Vasquez was in the pit box for 1.7 seconds less than McFarlane and 1.5 seconds less than Davidson. So Vasquez maybe did a lot more fuel saving than we anticipated there behind McFarlane. And to be able to whack 2 new tyres on as well, that's even better. And being able to do that while the fuel's going in without losing any more time. Amazing stuff then from Vasquez.
Our last of the leaders, Anderuti, is on to pit road right now for his first pit stop of the race. Remember, in this championship, in these endurance races, they're 1 hour and 45 minutes long, and you are mandated to take 2 pit stops in these races. So as Anderuti comes to a stop, and look at that, car not up onto the jacks, he's taking fuel only here.
Yeah, usually I would say the Porsche is pretty kind on its tyres. It's a naturally aspirated engine, a flat 6 engine that makes a lot of its power up the top end. Always has good traction, the Porsche, with the engine at the rear over the driven wheels, but that naturally aspirated engine not as aggressive as the turbocharged car, so maybe just a bit kinder on its tyres than the rest.
Away he goes then, down to 4th place. Is James Buemi going to come up alongside? There he is, Buemi. And Buemi comes up into 4th place right now. So the Altitude Esports driver gets ahead of Leandro Anderuti. So change of position through the pit stops then. Anderuti was a 30 seconds on the stall compared to 27 of James Buemi. So Buemi able to gain 3 seconds there between him and Anderuti, and still actually it's only about 6.5 seconds off the race leader. So Buemi definitely has the pace here today.
He does. Now that 3 seconds or so was all in the pit box. Buemi 27.0 seconds in the pit box, 30.3 for Anderuti. So Anderuti did go longer than the rest. However, he spent longer in the pit box. So the question is, did the others come in earlier than they might have been able to? Did they use up all their fuel tank? Are they basically back-timing to the end of the race, knowing that they've got to take another stop anyway, and maybe pitting at a point where they wanted to get out of traffic? Certainly with the Pearsons that was the case, but intriguing here in this endurance round here at Sebring.
We'll give you a quick sort of rundown of the field then, as things stand right now. Is Aaron Vasquez in Pro. We'll start with Pro. Leading this race by 2 seconds over Ross McFarlane and Alex Davidson together on track. Anderuti is 4th place in class with Prada, Krakos, Unvadros and Armstrong rounding out the top 8 of Pro. In your Pro-Am, James Buemi in 4th place overall. Really good place for him to be in terms of championship points, with his teammate Down second place in class, so Axel Sliatrovic will be in 10th place overall, second in class, with Ethan Critchley in 3rd place for Pro-Am right now, 11th place overall. In your Am class, Jonathan Walker, great drive from him so far, finds himself in 12th place, legitimately there, on pace as well, you have to say. The next driver along in Am, I'm just trying to look through my timing screen, and my timing screen has apparently frozen, so I can't tell you who is it. Thank you, Arjuna, for giving us the AMs. It's Jensen Adriansen's in 2nd place in AM. He's 19th place overall, with Chris Gooch 20th place overall, 3rd place in class. You can see that gap between Walker and Adriansen's after the first pit stop there, Peter. I mean, that's what, nearly 30 seconds between the two.
It's a remarkable performance from Johnny Walker. Really, really impressive in that 3M Ferrari. And yeah, it's kind of come out of nowhere as well. I hope that Johnny doesn't mind us saying that, because you know, he's always been strong, always been fast, but not dominating the class by 30 seconds after only 45 minutes of racing. It must just be that you do get this, though. You do get Sebring specialists. It's such a particular circuit, such a technical challenge, and some drivers don't get on with it and others absolutely love it, and Johnny's definitely one of the latter.
Yeah, it's one of those circuits, isn't it? I think places like this, places like the Nürburgring, Nordschleife, you do get out and out just specialists who just know the place like the back of their hands, and it does suit certain people's driving, does this venue, and it certainly is suiting Vasquez at the front, although McFarlane and Davidson have been closing that gap at the front now. It's only 1.5 seconds between them, so Davidson and McFarlane, they are hunting down your race leader. This is such an intriguing race right now for me. I don't know who's going to win this one. I genuinely can't decide.
No, it's really tight, and Vasquez is in the lead by virtue of having the lowest pit stop time of those leading cars by a reasonable margin. So, was that, we believe that's to do with the amount of fuel saving that he did behind McFarlane in the opening stint. But did he go to the end of that fuel tank? Because we saw Anderuti, take 4 seconds more fuel. So yeah, there's a lot of unknowns, and we won't really know until we get to that final stint and how things go from there, and when the drivers decide to take that pit stop, because basically once we're 40 minutes to go, that's the window opening. So basically from there, any time from then, you can pit and get to the end of the race. So but we'll have to keep the calculator at close at hand, Paul. Can be working away. My little brain is on its limit already. Apologies, Paul. Apologies for cutting across you there. Lucas Prada actually is the lowest amount in the pit box of the should we call them the leading runners? 24.1 seconds for the Mercedes. Oh dear.
That was Jack Osborne, and that was Maciej Sakovic, both facing the wrong way. And you don't need to be Einstein to work out that the two of those have come together there. I think it's fair to say then. Let's have a look. So, Osborne got involved with another car, and Sakovic was just the innocent party in that.
Oh, that's so unlucky. Classic Sebring, yeah, big. Oh, just a little bit of contact there, and yeah, nothing that can be done. We saw it happen in the real world, didn't we, Paul? Yeah. On Saturday, the huge incident. I did see someone commenting saying it looked like an iRacing crash, which I thought was a bit unfair, but you could see what they meant. But it's when the sun starts to come down and at Sebring, the gloves come off and it gets nasty.
It certainly does. Speaking of the Sebring 12 hours from this weekend, it was interesting to see a tweet that went out saying how getting the win at Sebring was partly helped by learning how to deal with traffic around here through iRacing. So it shows how the sim world and full metal racing can work hand in hand.
Absolutely no question about it. Yes, and the thing is you know, with global sports car convergence, with the same spec of car being able to be raced in the United States of America and IMSA and the very particular circuits that they have here, like Road Atlanta, Sebring, Road America, and so on. And over in Europe, the more kind of more Grand Prix tracks, if you like. A lot of the time, if you've been a driver that's been kind of more used to one paddock or the other, when you have to cross the Atlantic, and it can seem unfamiliar, and anything you can do to prepare yourself, you know, the better. And for certain, the iRacing simulator can provide that preparation that the drivers are looking for. I mean, Porsche factory driver Matt Campbell, you'll often see him post on Instagram day or two before he goes away to a big race. He'll be there working away on his sim at home, just getting fully familiar with the circuit before heading over there.
Yeah, I was once in a meeting with a number of team managers from teams across the Porsche Super Cup, the German Carrera Cup as well, and they were all. This was in Leipzig at the Porsche factory at Leipzig, and they were all there looking at me as the sim racing expert, going, "Well, why should we get involved in this?" And I had to actually give an example of from my racing when I used to race for Ash Sutton's team before it was Pure Sims, when it was the CQR team. How he spent an hour with me in a session using Motec, which is a system that all the teams use in real-world racing, to help me improve my lap times, get me familiar with what lines to take through corners, ready for a race. I said, you can take that, he does that himself. Spends time in the sim to get himself prepared to then go to the track. You're then having to spend less time familiarising yourself with the track.
No doubt about it, and of course, as the technology is improved, hardware and software, it becomes more and more relevant as time goes on, because, you know, the way that real-world racing cars behave, the overall theories don't necessarily change. Yes, the performance level changes, but actually I mean, I can't get my head around, Paul, the rapid development of software and hardware, that what's available to virtual racers now. It makes a huge difference. As we got a change here, Vázquez has listened to that
lift and coast.
Massive lift and coast, yes. So Aaron Vázquez, he says, I might not have a teammate, but I can pretend that those Ferraris are painted in Altus colours and use them as a bit of a tow. And so McFarlane and Davidson have charged through. And does Vázquez look worried? Absolutely not a bit of it.
I know that in the last couple of rounds, not at Motegi, but at Bathurst, that they've had Will Chadwick, who was new to the team at Altus Esports. He's been sort of giving a little bit of help, crew chiefing for them in these longer races. So I wonder if he's going to be involved again here today, or whether he's a bit busy. But you know, it just gives you one less thing to worry about when you're behind the car. If you've got somebody out of the car that you can just ask, can you just check, I've got this fuel number at the line, what do we need for the pit stop? And do the maths there, and have them there say, we could really do you doing a little bit of lifting, coasting.
It makes all the difference, because you don't want to give away any bandwidth to think about that while you're driving. I mean, running at a pace as they are right now, sub 1 minute 59 around Sebring in a GT3 car, that requires bandwidth from the driver. So to have that worry taken away from you, very, very important. I do wonder if McFarlane and Davidson here are just going to try and they've clearly seen what Vázquez's strategy is. Are they going to try and make a break now and just try and stretch and say, no, you're not going to be able to fuel save because we're going to push? And it could be the case that Davidson and McFarlane maybe have a slither more fuel on board. It's hard to say, but they could do.
Oh, Mark Woodhouse. Oh, be careful if you rejoin there, Mark. Yeah, it's... I just get the feeling that every time we see Matt Woodhouse this season, he is in some sort of hedgerow or barrier of some type. It's just not been his season. Well, the last couple of seasons, to be fair, it's not been his, really. Oh, he got onto the dirt, and that's a heavy impact.
Yeah, that's such an easy mistake to make at Sebring. You're trying to carry as much speed through turn 1 and onto the exit of the corner as well, and it's so easy to just dip a wheel off, get an off-track penalty as probably the best case scenario if you dip a wheel off. And Mark demonstrated to us there what the worst case scenario is, which is a wrecked race car. It's incredibly fierce in the outdoor world and just the same here in the virtual world.
Now, I'm going to ask, maybe yourself will know this, or maybe our producer will know this. I noticed the front two of Ross McFarlane and Alex Davidson. Ross has the number board in the front windscreen, yet Davidson has his number board in the side window, as there's a spin for one of our Penguin RC simulation cars. That's Brian Sohan, who's taking a trip round at Sunset Bend. But there you go, you see, McFarlane's got the number board in the front windscreen, whereas, for the position board, whereas the position board for Davidson is in the side window.
You've stumped me on that one, Paul. I have no idea.
That. I just noticed it now.
I've absolutely no idea. Could be to do with I knew our producer Arjuna would have an idea. It looks like it's something to do with the paint spec map, which is even more confusing given they run for the same team. But,
no, but
I don't know.
Is it because they may be one's running like the IMSA spec, yes, and one's running the normal standard spec, and that gives you the different position boards?
Either way, they look great.
If people, by the way, if people know the answer in the chat, please do let us know, because I'm genuinely confused. I thought there was only one model for the car.
Of all the tangents we've taken, Paul, in our career together, that's one of your best. normally I'm responsible for the really alternative tangent. Edward Knight off at on the Flying Fortress straight, so looks like he's lost it coming out of Tour turn there. Yeah, another Sebring classic. Just dipping a wheel off into that sort of sandy grass and whoosh, round you go.
So it is still your front three absolutely together, nothing separating them. James Boehme is still your best Pro-Am, but he has dropped back from Leandro Anderuti, who, I'll have to say, lap after lap, Anderuti, he has been on a charge. His lap times have been consistently about 0.3 to half a second quicker than your leading three. So he is pushing. I think he's trying to get to the leaders here.
Yeah, Anderuti is he's got a full tank of gas and a full pick and mix bag of sweeties in the glove compartment. He's pushing. Yeah, he's on it. Is Leandruti in the jet black Porsche.
I thought you were going to quote the Blues Brothers then. We've got a full tank of glass. It's at night, and we've got our sun shades on. Yeah,
we got ourselves a road trip. Yeah. Well, Anderuti says he is racing the sat nav right now. He's on his road trip, and yeah. Interestingly, it appears here that McFarlane and Davidson are trying to. Who was that having a big off in the background? Oh, McFarlane and Davidson trying to break Vasquez, and Vasquez has in turn had a force to up his pace to try and keep with him. They dropped him by 0.2 last time. He equalled them the time before, and Jeroen Kaiser another off. The team mad parts truck is going to be run bare after this race.
Dave Crozier will not be footing that bill, I can tell you that now, team boss. That was a bit of a weird wiggle, was that, for your own? But just keep it on the grey stuff eventually. Although it does take to the runoff there. And that's one of the fortunate things, is that you have got that old part of the track, haven't you, that you can use as a little bit of a runoff if you have it. It's almost like he just had a bit of an issue and it's just wiggled the steering.
Do you think he was checking a message on his phone?
No, your own wouldn't do that. It might be changing a setting on his fuel or something like that and not waiting to a straight, perhaps.
It was certainly distracted. It didn't look like a technical failure. It looked like being distracted by something. Which maybe brought a nice cup of coffee in the sim and then looked back at the screen and he was on the grass.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Sorry.
I'll tell you what. There is somebody who is guilty, by the way, of texting and driving in an iRacing special event, and I'm going to call him out here. Chaz Dracup. The iRacing Spa 24, he was texting down the straight between what's now finally known as Speaker's Corner, and well, I refuse to call it double gauche. It's Poumon to me. That he just went off into the barrier. That ruined his team's race. The two Pure Sims cars, the leaders, just getting held up a little bit by that lap traffic from the Team Mad car, so just getting held up a little bit, but sort themselves out. But that just allows Vasquez to come back through.
Yeah, Aaron Vasquez, he really had to put a late move there on the brakes to try and make sure that he didn't lose touch with the Pure Sims Ferraris. And again, this is where having two Pure Sims Ferraris, they can be really clever going through the traffic, and they'll hope to try and use the lap traffic as a bit of a pick to block Vasquez and then really try and put in some purple sectors to try and break away from him, because all the time that Vasquez is behind him, he's got opportunities to save bits and pieces of fuel, which in a battle as close as this is going to be a big difference. So let's see how the Pure Sims cars work it out, but they're definitely in a strong place. But like you said earlier, Paul, absolutely impossible to call who's going to come out on top here.
And it's great. We wouldn't want it any other way, would we, Peter? This is exactly what we want from this championship.
Oh, 100%, and that's why I love the fact that we've got 3 different formats in this championship. This is the endurance format, 1 hour 45. We've got the feature format, 2 40-minute races with a single pit stop, and then the 20-minute flat sprint, no pit stop. And always, and of course, those feature and sprint events have partially reversed grids too in the latter races. So I think whoever wins the championship is definitely the most complete driver of that season.
Yeah, certainly. It's the driver who can adapt the best. There's Jonathan Walker, still our top AM driver in 11th place, a gain of 5 places from where he started in this race. And the 3M UK team, of course, Jonathan from 3M UK. Great to see them doing so well in this race, as he's running through on pace as well. It's not like there's been some crazy sort of instant at the start of the race. I mean, there was some crazy instance at the start of the race, let's be honest, but he is going about it and keeping pace, which is great to see. Jensen Adriansen's just in the top 20, losing that place to Marvin Lesmallman, who is on a charge. After that, and I said it when we were going through the grid, he was disappointing qualifying for Marvin, working his way through, now up into 19th in this race in that Porsche.
Yeah, Lesmallman might be regretting switching the Audi, because the Audi appears to still have very good pace, and Marvin definitely has dropped down the order, switching to that car. It may just be a point of just getting back used to it again. Does drive quite differently to the Audi. The Porsche's, it depends. It's very good on braking. I'd say it's the best car in the GT3 category here on iRacing under braking. Just so stable, you can just stamp the brake on, and it's brilliant. It's got good traction, but maybe not quite the straight line speed of the Audi or the Ferrari as well. So it's amazing how balanced performance, if you just get a slight change in it, it can flick the order around. And it's 2 Ferraris at the front at the moment. McFarlane and Davidson are coming up behind Berridge. in traffic, and Berridge opens the door for them and then sort of closes it again. And McFarlane and Davison are going to have to be patient here as well. But is Aaron Vazquez going to be able to get by? Yes, he is. Berridge lifts out of it and lets them go.
And the thing is, through that twisty section, it is best for Berridge to hold his racing line. People might say, oh, why wasn't he sort of jumping out the way?
No, you can't.
Well, no, because if he jumps out the way, that might be where those faster cars might be heading towards, and you end up with a crash. So it's best to be predictable and to hold your racing line, your normal line, and for those quicker cars to go around. And yes, he did assist them coming around Big Bend, but he did hold up the two race leaders a little bit, and that just allows Aaron Vazquez to catch up once again. And it's those little bits of traffic that's the hard part of traffic management for Ross McFarlane. He's the first one getting there. He's waking up those lap traffic to the fact that there is leaders coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the give and take of traffic management. So the pit window is now open. You could now pit at any time from now and make it to the end of the race. I think the longest the pit window would be about 20 minutes to go, based on when the drivers took their first stop. That's as deep as you could possibly go if you put a full fuel tank in at the first stop. So let's see when the drivers decide to do that. Traffic-wise, as we saw from our track map a few laps ago, to be honest, it's pretty chock-a-block around the whole circuit. I mean, look at that, there's barely a spare spot on the circuit.
There's one or two little spots, but other than that, there's nothing out there that's open real estate. So the gap between Ben Palmer and Dwyer Adrianson's, I think, is the biggest gap out there on track for the leaders. So they're just going to hit traffic wherever they come around on track, and it's just got to have that patience there. Worth pointing out, we have lost a number of drivers. To start off with, Josh Thompson did not take the start, so he did not start. And then Adam Hedgecock, who actually had a blue screen incident. He got hit in the race, and then his PC decided that was a point to give him a blue screen of death, and that's put him into the pits and out of the race very earlier on. Oh, there's Dwyer Adrianson. I mentioned the Indy Autosport driver. He's had an incident and has dropped down the order, just losing the place now to Paddy Faulkner. Pete Harrod we saw in that incident at the start of the race. Jordan Johnson, Andy Archer, who we saw coming out of pit road, ended up into the wall. Here's what happened to Adrianson's, and just running a little bit wide into that BMW, and that BMW seems to have a really good effect of just knocking other cars out of the wall. I don't like that rejoin. Andy Archer we saw having the issues out of pit road on cold tyres. Jack Sedgwick has retired, and your own Kaiser as well, another one that has retired from this race. So 43 cars remain in this race, although Edward Knight has been on pit road for about a minute and a half now, so we may be about to lose another one.
We might well be. Well, Aaron Vazquez has the fastest lap of the race at the moment, 1:58.1. That's just 0.3 of a second off pole. And that gives you an idea of how much the track is just getting quicker as the cover of darkness begins to engulf Sebring International Raceway. The track temperature has cooled off less than I would have expected, 25 degrees Celsius. But it has cooled a touch, and it's pretty much perfect conditions in terms of track temperature at least, and that is definitely helping the lap times as well. Vazquez right on the case of McFarlane and Davidson, and it is, I tell you what, Paul, it's going to come down to these final pit stops. And where does Anderuti play in this? Because his gap to the lead has stayed pretty much dead on 3 seconds all the way through the race, and we just don't know what he has up his sleeve. He took a bit of a longer pit stop. He went deeper into the race to take his first pit stop, and he took more fuel on at that point, or took more time in the pit stops. Does he have an ace card up his sleeve? We've seen him do that before.
Well, I mean, you can see the leaders in front. He has been captured, because when he came out the pits, he was about 6 seconds-ish behind. He had to make his way past James Buemi as well after the pit stop. He's been on an absolute charge. I wonder if he basically just brimmed the car and has thought, right, hell to a fuel number, I'm just pushing on, I want to get up to the leaders now, and slowly but surely has been gaining. With 35 minutes remaining here, don't write off Leandro Andaruti yet from this race.
We know that Andaruti has been the master of the kind of fuel game, etc. But when you watch him on track, I tell you, it's the greatest compliment you could pay a driver. He looks like Kevin Estre in that Porsche. You know, just absolutely on it all the way. As many cars take a look into pit road. Huge pit party.
And the two leaders, McFarlane and Davidson, got held up on pit entry there. That'll cost them time because there were lap traffic coming onto pit road as well. So that could cost them about a second or so. Coming onto the pit lane, had to really get on the anchors. Here's a look from on board. This is from McFarlane's. All those cars in front, he's thinking, right, I'm going to come onto pit road. Oh, they're coming onto pit road as well. And then, it all checks up. And he will not want to be on that pit lane speed limit that far before the cones, as we've got a spinner out there.
Oh, it's Jensen Adrianson, so second in the AM class, off. And that's allowed Chris Gooch through into second in AM and increases the advantage that Jonathan Walker has over the field. And he's just purely dominant in AM at the moment. Lucas Prada is in as well in the Pure Sims Mercedes. Now, Lucas was one of the drivers who spent the least time in the box, and it's a lazy spin for Jensen Adriansons. How many drivers have we seen do that tonight? Quite a few.
Alex Davidson has come out ahead of his teammate Ross McFarlane, and he was on pit road, pit box, a good 4 seconds or so shorter than McFarlane. So it just goes to show how much being sat behind really helped out Alex here in this race.
Yeah, and he was behind for the entire stint, wasn't he? So, yeah, massive advantage. Of course, Davidson is the front runner in the championship, so is there an argument that Pure Sims have elected, okay, we're going to put all our eggs in that basket? Is it too early to say that? I don't know.
I mean, McFarlane coming into this round was 166 points behind Andaruti, and did miss a round, remember, so he does have a 0 point for one of his drop scores.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Vasquez does stay out, so he decides another lap, does the Altus Esports driver, James Boemi, Pro-Am leader, onto pit road right now, deciding that this is the time to take his pit stop, find his pit box. I don't think his pit crew would appreciate him being sat that close to the pit wall if that was real life, but thankfully this is the virtual world, so yeah, he has got the car up on the jack, so deciding that is going to be time for more tyres.
Well, if you park that close, you're only getting left sides. That's for sure. Huge pit party going on here as well. Johnny Walker in from the lead of AM in the Free M Ferrari. Ethan Critchley in, Daniel Sesley in, Unverdrus in, Karekas in as well. Karekas going for a big fuel up there as well. And Buemi continues in a really strong position in the Pro-Am class.
You've got to be careful with pit exit here, because you can be flying out of pit road and the driver that's coming around turn 1 doesn't even know that you're coming out of pit road, because where the driver on track is looking to the apex is completely the wrong direction to see if somebody's coming off of that pit lane, and it's up to the driver returning to the track from pit road to do so safely. They shouldn't expect the car already on track going normal speed to suddenly get on the brakes and give them space.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something you've always got to be on top of. Aaron Vasquez comes around with yet to pit. The two Pure Sims cars have pitted.
Oh, he's on.
And indeed he is. So our leader in pit lane then, Aaron Vasquez, comes in the Altus Audi as well. Where is he going to come out compared to Alex Davidson and Ross McFarlane? And where does the Porsche of Leandro Andaruti play into this as well? He is kept going. He's gone round Aaron Vasquez hits his pit box perfectly.
Yeah, nicely stopped in the box there. Getting some race fuel. Some virtual race fuel. It's got to be patient now. You're looking at around 25 seconds. Well, it was 22 seconds for Davidson in the box. Vasquez still there. Now pulls away. So it's around 24, 25 seconds for Aaron. Out of pit road. This is going to be tight. Coming into turn 1 for Davidson. There is Vasquez. And there is Davidson. Is going to be neck and neck between the two of them. And just staying ahead is Vasquez. Oh, that is so close. You cannot get any closer than that.
That was tight. That was really tight there. Vasquez just snipped the nose off of Davidson. So now it's a straight fight. 29.5 minutes to go. No nonsense, no fuel saving, no nothing. It's just a straight dogfight for this win here at Sebring.
There are a number of drivers still yet to pit. Tom Brown just comes onto pit road for his stop. That's the latest one. We've still got Anderuti, James Armstrong, who we've barely mentioned Armstrong in this race. We have also got third place, current Pro-Am leader of Axel Slijetrovic, and he is there in third place. Also, Daniel Handover, Tim Perry, Justin Claessens, and Sarah Raab always pit stops, and there's some further down in the order as well, always a pit stop. So we're in that pit stop cycle, and you can take it through to about 20 minutes, as you said, Peter, as there is how the one of the lines you do not want to take through the corner of 1,000 lines.
No, definitely not. Sunset Bend is often known as that. It's a very true description, and that's it. Yeah, hard into the wall. We've seen that wall claim a lot. Yeah, Brian Soner's had a night to forget, shall we say, in that Penguin RC car. Sebring not being so kind to him. Now, this, I tell you what, that hold up that you spotted, Paul, with Davidson and McFarlane coming into the pit lane, that's really stung, because Davidson was in the pit box for 2.7 seconds less than Vasquez. But all of that time, and the pit lane time was pretty similar as well. The difference is basically the approach to pit lane. That has been the difference of him coming out behind Vasquez rather than in front. That's a real piece of bad luck there for Pure Sims and Alex Davidson.
Now we're on board on the main picture there with the dark horse of this race. Leandro Anderuti, last lap was a 58.488, so really on the pace there. Davidson was a 59.1, McFarlane 59.0. So Anderuti right now, he's got the lighter car. You've got to take advantage of that to just get those laps in, really put the laps in to really try and close up that gap to those leaders when he comes onto pit road.
And the one thing Anderuti, we said he was like, Kevin Estre on a qualifying lap. Well, that's what he's got to channel in now, and he goes around for another one as well. And look at the clean air he's got as well. No traffic ahead. This is push, push, push. If you're on the team radio, you're saying we need you to go to the very maximum of what you feel. And yeah, 158.2 is fastest lap of the race. Anderuti knows exactly the opportunity that's ahead of him, and he's pushing now.
Yeah, this is certainly going to be intriguing. There you see the gap then, 42.2 seconds between Anderuti and Vasquez as we go along. So it's going to be, again, it's down to the pit stops, down to the strategy, and this is why we love these races, why we love the World GT Championship for these mixed events. Across the line, as Vasquez once again, that's his first flying lap out the pits, a 58.3 compared to Davidson's 58.9. Has Davidson underfueled a bit too much potentially here then, Peter?
Well, just for doing the calculations now, Davidson did 49.6 seconds across the whole race in the pit box, so therefore at the fuel pump. Vasquez was at the fuel pump for 1.2 seconds more than Davidson. McFarlane was, he was quick arithmetic, he was 3.7 seconds longer than Davidson in the pit box.
Oh
so,
dear.
Oh dear indeed. Oh dear again.
Lee
Berridge off again.
And it was one of the Fat Atom cars, and I think it's Jack Osborne, who, quite frankly, has had a night to forget. Jack, of course, has been somebody who has been one of the quick drivers previously for Century Sim Racing. So, oh dear. So he's off. So, was that Osborne that was already off the track? Let's have a look. Let's get another look at this one then. So through turn 1, is he going to get a wiggle? Just it's car coming back on. Oh, it's Berridge coming back on.
Yeah, Berridge is out of. To be fair, Berridge is not in control there. He's run wide, and he's basically in the middle of having a spectacular accident, and that accident is converged into the path of. Oh yeah, that's really unlucky. That's so unlucky.
Well, while we look at that, Andretti is on pit road, so this is where we get to see, tyres. Now, that will slow it down slightly, the pit stop, I would imagine. It'll be interesting to see whether it's just 2 tyres. Down he comes, away he goes. About 22 seconds on the box. Here comes Vasquez across the line.
He's not going to get it.
Oh, he's got cold tyres as well. It's going to be neck and neck once again between the two of them. A little bit of a switch from Andretti, and he's taken the lead. My goodness, what an awesome strategy play from the Italian.
That's remarkable there from Leandro Andretti. Just such good strategy. I mean, interestingly there, he's done 51.7 seconds in the pit box, so he's actually been in the pit box for more time than Vasquez, but those few laps in clean air, what a difference they made as we head into the hairpin. And Andretti on the cold tyres, he's out on the marbles. They're side by side for the lead here, Paul. This is those cold tyres on Andretti's car just taking a minute to come in, and Vasquez retakes the lead.
That is just this is absolutely incredible. We've got Vasquez, Andretti, Davidson all duking it out for a race win here. Andretti, as you mentioned there, getting the tyres up to temperature. That once you get those tyres up to temperature, though, he's going to have a little bit of a performance advantage over Vasquez. So if you're at home right now, you need to get the hammer down here and get pulled away as much as possible before those tyres come into play. You
do. Yes, you really do, because we've seen how good Leandro Andretti is when he's really on it, and I wonder as well how much of an advantage those tyres are going to give 22 minutes from now, because those slightly fresher rubber could really help Andretti. But look who is right behind Andretti now as well. It's Alex Davidson. So he has rallied a little bit as well. So is it going to be Aaron Vasquez? Is it going to be Andretti? Is it going to be Davidson? And drop Ross McFarlane, that 3 seconds or so that Farland lost in the pits to his teammate, well, he's not claimed any of it back yet.
No, certainly not. Oh, this is going to be a really intriguing sprint to the finish now for these drivers. Don't forget that a normal sprint weekend would be 3 20-minute races, so they've just got longer than one of the sprint events now to finish this race. James Boehme, what a performance from the Pro-Am for Altitude Esports. Clean 8 seconds ahead of James Armstrong, and the next best Pro-Am is actually his teammate Axel Slijeptrovic, who's in 10th place. Johnny Walker, after all the pit stops, is still in 11th place, and as we said earlier, they're on pace. He deserves to be where he is, and he's doing a sensational job for 3M UK. And it's just come from nowhere. This is from left field, this performance.
It really is, yeah, it certainly is. And what absolutely fantastic stuff from Johnny Walker. This is one of the drives, certainly of the last few seasons here in the World GT Championship from him, and thoroughly deserved. And doing it at one of the toughest circuits you can possibly ask to do it on. He's heavy on the flashers here, getting held up behind Brian Sohn, who just appears to have lost all pace, and yeah, just not been his night. I wonder if he's maybe carrying damage, perhaps, from some of the incidents that he's had. But Vázquez is continuing to push and really opening up that gap now to 1.6 seconds. So Aaron Vázquez, he's really on it now. 158.9 last time by.
Oh, he's not happy with that, was he? He was very, very close to hitting that wall, but he's actually got the bit between his teeth. A 58.4 compared to a 58.8 for Anderuti. He is just giving it out. He's hanging it out there. He's doing everything that he can to get the best potential gap over Anderuti, but a little bit of lap traffic now. I think he's got a bit of a gap. Actually, do you know what? For the next few laps, these leaders are going to have a nice bit of space to be able to really put the hammer down.
Yeah, I think they will, and I think that maybe Vázquez has played the fuel game perfectly as well, because he did a lot of fuel saving amongst the Pure Sims cars, but now in this last stop he's put enough fuel in to push at absolute maximum attack, and Davidson is the only driver to spend less than 50 seconds in the pit box. Everybody else has taken over 50 seconds of fuel on the day. It's sort of an average of around 52, 53 seconds per driver. So Davidson is definitely, he's definitely gone tight on the fuel, that's for sure.
He certainly has, but look at this now. Really close stuff between Armstrong and Prada. Next to nothing separating these two, and Christoph Karekas is involved in there, of course, James Armstrong's teammate. So Pure Sims, they got the opposite situation here with Armstrong and Karekas teaming up on Prada, who's on his own there.
Yeah, they are the two Brabham esports Audis, making Prada's life very, very difficult. Prada was one of the more frugal drivers as well in that big Mercedes, so he's made the maximum out of that he can. So yeah, and in place at the moment to score a top 10 finish, that would be a great result for Lucas Prada. You can see it's still got straight line speed as that big Mercedes, doesn't it? As Armstrong had to go very defensive there to stop getting absolutely roasted down the straight.
Yeah, that barge has got about a bonnet that's 17 yards long, but it certainly has a bit of grunt under it, that is for sure. That low rumble from that Mercedes, certainly, it's one of those engines that you can feel when it goes past you on a racetrack. And the other one that I can really compare it with is the Bentley as well. That has a similar effect, Peter.
Oh, yeah, which ironically it's a VW Audi engine, actually. It's a V8 twin turbo. It's a thumping monster of a car. If you're listening, iRacing, can we have the Bentley, please? I know it's sort of out of production, and I know there are not many of them racing anymore, but come on, it's so cool.
Just have a word with Malcolm Wilson. I'm sure he'll let you have a scan of one.
Yeah, he would. Well, actually, I was speaking to someone from M Sport last weekend. They still have 3 full-time people basically rebuilding, servicing and selling and supplying parts for the cars that are still in action.
Back in 2014, before they moved to the new factory, I went on a tour of the ProDrive facility. My goodness, what a place that is to go around. And at that time they had the Mini for the Rallycross. They were doing it. They were speccing out the Rallycross versions of the Mini because the rally, the rally project came to a sudden end, shall we say. Did that one, and they had a load of Minis left. So like, what can we do with these? Oh, let's make Rallycross cars. So yeah, they had those in, and as well as the V12 and the V8 Aston Martins as well, the GT3 and GTE cars. And yeah, that is a place that you want to have a tour around. You can do tours of the new facility as well, by the way. Prada around the outside there of Armstrong. That's a brave move on the exit of Sunset Bend.
just a bit. What a move there from Prada, using the very most of his ability and of that car as well, just setting the move up nicely. And you can see why Armstrong was having to go so defensive before, because Prada was such a threat. So can these this pair of Brabham Esports Audis, can they put the pressure on? Can they work together to make Prada's life as difficult as possible with 15 minutes to go? And Vasquez continues to extend his advantage, now up to nearly 3 seconds from Anderuti, who in turn is keeping Davidson at bay. And of course, that is the big championship battle.
I mean, we don't have to show it, but I want to mention it. I've got a yellow flag warning come up on my screen. It was a certain number 3 of Mark Woodhouse once again. He's not having fun out there. No, you didn't have to show it. No. I mean, yes, it's getting the team ad sponsors on, but that's not. It's not been Mark's. Last few seasons, he's been struggling. I think it's fair to say. I can tell you as well. Thank you very much to your own mentioning in the YouTube chat. Your own Kaiser out of the session, and he the reason why he had that big jolt through Big Bend, lost force feedback a few times.
Oh well, that's not what you want, is that? Well, it's kind of like the power steering pump going, or vice versa. Whatever it's supposed to have, it's not got it. And here comes Davidson now, going to try and make a move there. But again, the braking of the Porsche, you see there, Anderuti able to get on the anchors later, and that keeps Davidson at bay. But Davidson looking very dangerous. Now we come into Ferrari country. So that turbocharged V8 really starts to get into its glide, into its stride as well, and into the braking zone we go now. Again, can Anderuti keep Davidson at bay? No, he can't. Davidson's going to take a big look here. Oh, Anderuti gives him the space, but then cuts it back again as well, and shuts the door hard. Great racing.
And you see that, loads of respect between both drivers there, gave each other space. Davidson got that car perfectly to the apex as well. No dive bomb there. This is great stuff between two of your championship rivals, don't forget as well. Anderuti currently came into this race as championship leader just by 8 points over Alex Davidson. So Davidson wants to beat Anderuti here on track to get that gap closer.
Well, yeah, this game on, they're very, very close indeed. I mean, we've run out of superlatives as well to discuss James Buemi's performance, 5th overall, and leading the Pro-Am class by a heck of a margin. And here his car is 23 seconds further back, and that is the still very impressive Selevcevic. So yeah, very good day at the office for James Buemi. So your paddock gossip you got, Paul, was definitely on the money, that's for sure. It's side by side for second once more, the two championship contenders.
Oh, now if Davidson can hang it out there, oh, that's a squeeze towards the pit wall. You can hang it out around the outside of turn 1 here. You get a nice run. Oh, not that much of a run though, onto the grass. They're still side by side together with each other. Oh my goodness, take a breath, lads. Just don't have each other off, because you're going to end up causing yourselves no end of misery if you take each other out. Anderuti unsettled on corner exits. And through goes Davidson.
This has got airs of Bergmeister and Magnussen Laguna Seca 2009. Bit of contact, bit of rubbing and racing going on there as well. And you can tell they are just loving it there right now. But now that Davidson is by, it just immediately pulls a couple of car lengths out of Anderuti. And here we go then, just over the bumps. And Anderuti, maybe doesn't quite leave the room as well. But to be fair, Davidson had put himself out on that very far outside line, and how Anderuti didn't get turned in the wall there, I'll never know. Really right into the very, very edge and a little bit beyond.
As they carry on here, I just feel that Davidson is pulling away now. But all of this has allowed Ross McFarlane to come rocketing back up with these two at at one point, he was about 4 seconds back, wasn't he, Ross? He's really come close to these two who have been duking it out on track. So, your your quintuple champion, Ross McFarlane, he's not out of this one. He's 166 points back in the championship. It's going to be a tall order, I think, though, for him to fight for this one, but never say never. Through Sunset Bend, once again, it is still Vasquez, who's been loving those two battling. A 58.0, new fastest lap for Aaron Vasquez, and that was 2.2 seconds faster than Davidson and Anderuti.
Well, that shows you that's the difference, and that's why McFarlane's been able to catch up so quickly as well as they come through traffic as well. But what a drive this has been from Aaron Vasquez. He's been a superstar since coming into this championship. He's one of the
Chris Gooch.
Triple Three, Chris Gooch off. He was running in a good spot in the AM class as well, so that's a pity. But yeah, Aaron Vasquez has just been fantastic. Played the strategy absolutely perfectly, but when he needed to unleash a pace, he had it, and he leads the race by 7 seconds. What a performance it's been.
And so this was Gooch trying to keep out the way of that leading group, that second, third and fourth battle, and just ends up tripping himself up around the corner. So that was unfortunate. Lost a position in the AM standings. Of course, don't forget, in this championship there's not separate points for the different classes. If you're new to this championship, welcome along. What a race you've picked to watch as your first one. But the points structure is just one set of points for all the positions. So wherever you finish in that race is the points that you take towards your particular championship, and that is what makes it so good and so competitive in this championship. And when you have somebody have a good day like Jonathan Walker or James Buemi are for Pro-Am and AM, it really helps them out in the championship.
Oh, no question about it. Absolutely no question. And I think that's where, Jonathan Walker, for example, he's in a remarkable position to just gain a huge chunk of points, as is James Buemi, of course.
Anderuti, I saw sparks from his car on my end going through the last corner at Sunset Bend. There is a nasty bump right up on that inside, and he did take that very tight line through the right hander there at Sunset Bend. And I've been noticing that car, when he's been hitting some of the curbs, he's been kicking up the sparks as well. So he really has been pushing things, has Anderuti in third place. Ethan Critchley currently ahead of Jonathan Walker, and these two, to be fair, they've not really been separated all race long. The camera's just getting darker and darker as night has fallen here. And this goes to show that there's only so much illumination that the drivers get from the screens there. Ethan obviously likes to race in a darkened room.
He does, yes. That's a change, actually. I'm sure he had a little bit more illumination in previous, or maybe just the angle of where he set up the camera there, perhaps. But interesting one. I certainly prefer to have the light on behind. Just personal preference, I suppose. Not any particular reason why. Just more comfortable that way.
I don't like a dark room when I'm racing. I have to.
No, neither do I. No, and Leandro Anderuti, interestingly, I wonder if he's running the ride height as low as he can get away with. Typically at Sebring, you need a higher ride height. I was speaking to one of the former Porsche Motorsport engineers, Owen Hayes, and he says, the ride height has to be higher at Sebring to handle the bumps and to have the suspension travel. But Leandro Anderuti, he's obviously gone as absolutely as close to the line as he can get. As Davidson gets into the back of Sarah Raab there, coming out of Sunset.
Around they go, past Raab. Anderuti's trying his best to hang on to Alex Davidson here. And the last thing that Anderuti would want is Ross McFarlane getting between himself and his championship rival. Oh, there was a big slide there, mid-corner. Did you see that, Peter? just that slide mid-corner through turn 5 into Big Bend. And that's cost him a tenth or two on the Davidson.
Yeah, he's having to push super hard and surely hit the back of number 7 Porsche there of Daniel Nault, and stuck behind for a little bit longer there. Behind Nault is Anderuti as they come up towards Cunningham. Nault gets out of the way, and yeah, maybe loses a car length possibly there. Does Anderuti, as is gonna, it can happen in traffic, but I do think Davidson's got the pace in hand here, Paul. Leandro Anderuti is clearly trying everything, driving that Porsche right to its ragged edge, but it does seem that Davidson's just got a little bit in hand.
As we're looking at about 3 laps to go at the line, with just under 5 minutes remaining in this race. They've been lapping in the 58s of the leaders. As onto pit road, this is Adam Watson, and he's having to take another pit stop. A little splash and dash for him, as he will come on and get that service done. I could tell. Oh no, actually, I could tell you, there's a black flag. I wonder if he was speeding on to pit road, potentially, or maybe it was instant points. I don't know. There's another driver as well who has actually been sat on pit road for quite a while. Locatello had a black flag as well, and I do know there's one other driver who is sitting at the instant limit right now.
Oh, and that's not what you want. I think for Adam Watson, looks like a drive-through penalty, doesn't it?
It was stop and hold.
Stop and hold. Okay. So yeah,
I wonder if he's come onto pit road to get a splash and dash and is sped coming onto pit road and giving himself a stop and hold, as Daniel Nault has stopped out on track.
Yeah, in the fence there, and then the leaders were coming through. The first couple of cars had come through. I wonder if maybe got tangled up with one of the leaders. That's McFarlane behind him, and he just ran a little bit wide, and turn 1. We've seen that a couple of times tonight. So Sebring really has lived up to its reputation tonight of being a seriously fearsome circuit, right behind Ross McFarlane. I wonder if maybe just got a bit of aero wash there behind the Ferrari. But the end result, game over.
And it's going across that service road, it's launched him into the barrier, isn't it? He's hit the grass after that service road, and it's just launched him into the barrier there. As serious damage to one of your cars, one of your Audis out there, the 333, which is Chris Gooch. He's not been having fun out there these last few laps as Chris, and that car is definitely not going back onto the forecourt after today's race.
No, not without some creative photography anyway. I tell you who's refusing to give up here is Andrew Rutte. He's right on the back of Davidson, driving as hard as he possibly can. It's been a really impressive performance from our championship leader, don't forget, by a very slender margin over Davidson. So this is certainly in my time in commentating on the World GT Championship, this has been the tightest championship battle all the way through the season that we've had so far. And two completely different things. You know, you see Davidson is a real stalwart of the championship in one of the real stalwart teams in pure sims. Leandro Anderuti's we have seen him before, but only for a few races a few seasons ago. He's come back as a privateer in the Porsche, which doesn't appear to be the preferred car. He's only one of a few out there, and he is fighting tooth and nail for this championship. It's thrilling.
We should have 2 laps remaining in this race. You see the sparks kicking up from that Porsche on the curb strikes. And Vasquez doing a superb job at the front now, 9 seconds clear of these two, second and third place. The top 4 are 4 of your 5 at the top of the Pro Championship. Vasquez, Davidson, Anderuti and McFarlane are all there. The only driver who isn't in the one missing at the top 5 is Lucas Prada, and he's on the 6th place. So Pro Championship standings, okay, they're not in the exact order that they are in the Championship, gives you an indication in this race just who are the drivers who deserve to be up there at the front of the field. As James Buemi, again, worth mentioning, he's put the time in. It's showing here as the Pro-Am driver for Altitude Esports, and he's got now 9 seconds between him and Lucas Prada.
Remarkable. Yeah, just remarkable. Both our Pro-Am and our Am Championship, our Am class leaders. They've just been superb in this race. Vázquez particularly also, he's opened up his gap to 9 seconds. It seemed to be so close between Davidson, McFarlane and Vázquez, and then just after that second pit stop, Vázquez has just dropped the hammer and disappeared. Really impressive to watch. How much of an effect have those 2 new tyres at that last pit stop had? A bit, but not all on their own.
Oh.
Meanwhile, Anderuti, he's all over Davidson. He's been getting closer lap by lap, and he's going to have a thrash here for this second spot. Going to try and put it around the outside at Christensen corner. That's surely hiding to nothing. Right enough, Davidson easily closes the door, and comes right across the nose there of Anderuti. Anderuti is all over him on this last lap. Well, I said it was like Bergmeister versus Magnussen at Laguna Seca in 09. This is exactly the same on the last lap. Who's going to come off best?
This is absolutely sensational stuff. Anderuti's last opportunity. Remember, these two are first and second place in the Pro Championship, and they are absolutely neck and neck out there on track, giving us some sensational racing to finish off this round number 7 of the World GT Championship. The start of the second half of the season, and my goodness, what a race we have had here for you today. Anderuti trying everything that he can. He needs to now wait, I think, until Sunset Bend to decide this one, but he's going for it sooner rather than later. Anderuti all over the back of Davidson here. Vázquez is just onto the Ullman straight right now. These two, the time is running out for Anderuti. Davidson needs to hang on. There's a move. There's a move for Anderuti. But Davidson's going to get on the power sooner across out of that Le Mans corner. It's a dragged race down the Ullman straight in towards Sunset Bend. Meanwhile, your race leader, he's going to come across the line, and Alan Vázquez, the young Spaniard from Altus Esports, wins this race. Sensational stuff, and Anderuti's through. Oh, Davidson's all crossed up, and Anderuti in the Porsche is going to take second place right at the death here over Alex Davidson. My goodness, what a finish between those two. Meanwhile, James Blamey, the top Pro-Am driver, he's going to come across the line in 5th place overall. Sensational drive for the Pro-Am driver. And Jonathan Walker, 12th place right now in this race. He's just got to get to the very end. He's got a few more corners to go, and then he will take victory in Am. But what a sensational finish to that race, Peter.
Oh, that was remarkable. Anderuti was having moments everywhere. Huge oversteer coming out of Tower Turn, and he was right on top of it. And then coming through the long curves, again, I think there was just an ever so bit of light contact that loosened up Davidson, and Anderuti pounced. That was thrilling stuff. Firm racing there between the two of them, and it's Anderuti who comes out on top and extends his championship advantage. But this battle is just going to rage on to the final round. Amazing.
Yeah, we've got a few more cars just coming across the line to finish their race, but wow, take a breath. That was sensational stuff. That we run out of superlatives for these drivers at the front and through the field as well. Great stuff to see those drivers able to get those results that they deserve, as we'll wait for everything to finalise. But what a drive from the young Spaniard Alan Vázquez at the front. It was close on pit exit, wasn't it, Peter, between him and Davidson, but it worked out nicely. But in fact, let's take you through your provisional race results, and it's Vázquez for Altus Esports in his Audi, just short of 13 seconds ahead of the battling Leandro Anderuti in his Porsche and Alex Davidson for Pure Sims Esports in his Ferrari. Alex's teammate Ross McFarlane finishes in 4th place in the sister Ferrari, and then it's James Blamey for Altitude Esports in his Audi, the top Pro-Am in this race, finishing in 5th place overall. Lucas Prada in 6th place ahead of Christoph Krekas, with James Armstrong, his Brabham Esports teammate, along with him. Fabio Undradros is 9th, ahead of Axel Sleptrovic in 10th place for the Altitude Esports Blue team. Ethan Critchley in 11th place, with Jonathan Walker, your top AM driver, for 12th place for 3M UK in his Ferrari. 13th for Daniel Sedgley, ahead of Hunter McDaniel. Tom Brown, Daniel Handover for the Brabham Esports Hissing Sid team together. Marvin Lesbolman, a recovery drive for him, and a gain of 24 positions in that race. He was the biggest mover in the field today. Tim Perry, Justin Claessens, and Philip Koenig rounding out the top 20. Ben Palmer in 21st, and then it's Jensen Adrianson second in AM, down in 22nd overall, so finishing 10 places behind the AM winner, and a lap down as well for Jensen in the end for the Indy Autosport Audi driver. Adam Watson in 23rd, ahead of Sarah Raab, 3rd place in AM for the Penguin RC Simulation BMW. Sophia Ridpath in 25th, ahead of Chris Gooch, who got involved in a few things towards the end there. Dwyer Adrianson's Paddy Faulkner, Paul Crawford and Magic Sakovic ran at the top 30. Richard Simner in 31st, ahead of Ben Gregory, with Cesar Rizzo, Brian Sohn and Cody Crosgrove finishing 35th. Drivers 2 laps down or more. Mark Woodhouse, who was struggling to keep the car on the grey stuff. Lars Van Rijn, who was a lap down very early on in that race. Daniel Nolt, who we saw flying into the barrier. Jack Osborne, who had a nightmare out there, along with Massimo Locatello. And still more cars come. It's Lee Berridge, who, again, not a good night at the office for him. Brian Holmes, new to the series, does not finish. Edward Knight, as well, from Ignium Motorsport, with Jeroen Kaiser, Jack Sedgwick, Andy Archer, Jordan Johnson, Pete Harrod, and Adam Hedgecock, the 49 drivers. Josh Thompson did not take the start. Wow, Peter, I mean, that was simply a sensational finish to the race there. Brilliant stuff.
Oh, one of the best we've seen all season at the very least. I mean, proper stuff between two very top drivers. They both got to that last lap in a very different way in terms of their strategy and how they did that. But when it came down to a dogfight, that was remarkable to watch. Really, really good stuff. And Leandro Andaruti deserves to hang on to that lead in the championship that he came in with.
I think driver of the day is James Buemi, in my opinion.
Yeah,
him and Jonathan Walker, it's a close between those two for their sensational results. But in a week's time, we head back over to Europe, and it is to the sensational Cathedral of Speed, and that is Monza on the 27th of March, 8 PM UK time, which of course, don't forget that on the weekend coming up, the clocks do change forward in the UK, so do check your local times if you're not in the UK. Oschersleben, Daytona, Manicourt and Hockenheim finish off the season here, but Monza next week is going to be a very interesting round, to say the least. But that unfortunately is all time that we've got for you here today on RaceSpotTV. Thank you very much to Peter Mackay, as always, for joining myself, Paul Smith. Arjuna Kankapati behind the scenes, providing us the production here. And, from everybody at the World GT Championship, until next week at Monza, it's goodbye.